Welcome to Harness Central. I'm Harold Howe, and we're here near Campbellville, Ontario, with trainer Dustin Jones at his farm, and less than 48 hours after Breeders' Crown victory with Wheeling and Dealing. Congratulations, first of all. A couple questions I had in mind when I was thinking about what happened on the night and so forth. Over the years, I've had many of you trainers tell me that when they get a good horse, they learn something new from it. In most cases. This guy's got a perfect record, 680-some thousand. He'll be 2-year-old trotting colt of the year. I think overall Canadian horse of the year. If he isn't, somebody's not watching what's going on. Did you learn anything from him that you didn't already know a year ago?
No, not really. He was just so easy to train that...
Sure, make a liar of me.
No, honest, Harold. I mean, we didn't have to, everything was flawless with him this year. We didn't really have to experiment with any shoeing and stuff like that. Everything was just simple for him.
The thing I thought, though, with him is that he made everything look easy. You know, if he was supposed to turn left, he turned left. The cards fell into place, whereas your stablemate, Prestidigitator, he seemed to make everything look difficult.
Well, that's the difference between the two horses. Wheeling is so easy to drive. Like Sylvain always said in the race, he was like 2 fingers. And Presti, he was like Sylvain earned his money when he drove him, because he'd get his head crooked in the turns and get his head turned the other way in the straightaways. He was just a hard horse to handle.
The way you paint the picture, that's a mental thing. Is it something, if that's the case, that will improve with time?
I'm not really sure. He was like that as a 2-year-old, and he's a little bit more manageable in a race. But like the turning head part, I think that's just the way he is. He's like sort of rubbernecked.
So he was a hockey player, one of those guys that'd be in the penalty box repeatedly.
Yeah, he would be for sure.
So Prestidigitator, he's not done yet. He finished 4th the other night. He looked like he hung on the last turn and just didn't go forward until the last, 50 yards?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I never really had a chance to talk to Sylvain about it, but I watched the replay a few times yesterday, and coming out of the turn, he lost a couple lengths. And, geez, if he hadn't lost them 2 lengths there, he would have been easy second, because he was beat a long neck for second.
It's hardly been a disastrous year, but I know you were hoping more than 400,000 at this point. You still got the super final to go. When you look back at his season, is there anything you could have done differently?
I don't know. Like the Hamiltonian, it just was like one of them races where the outside flow was blocked or plugged up. And the Canadian Breeders, he made a break. He's in tight quarters. That would have been a nice race to have back. But other than that, I just guess it was racing luck.
So he's got the super final, and then he's done. Then what?
He's going to have another 2 months off, like we did with him last year, and get him ready to qualify about the end of May.
When you look at him and try and be objective about, what would you expect for him as an older horse?
Well, I think he should make the transition, because he's like a horse that can grind it out on the outside, and he's a good doer and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that he jumps up and races good as a 4-year-old.
Right. Wheeling and Dealing. He only made 9 starts, and there was a gap between the Breeders' Crown races and his previous races. And I know within your group, including your owner, Serge Godin, there was some debate about how to manage him in that period of time. Should you go to the Red Mile race? Should you not? Obviously, it all worked out great. But when you look back on it, what was the debate about?
Well, we were worried that the horse, we could go down there and he could get sick, or if we were wondering if it was we were only going to race him once, and we were wondering if it was worthwhile to truck him all the way down there and expose him to maybe a virus or something like that. And if there was 4 divisions or something like that, we'd be going for less money. And we decided to keep him at home.
As it turned out, he may have been as good the final start of his year as he was at the beginning, health-wise, fitness-wise, and so forth. So did you get anything from that experience as to how to keep a horse together, keep him fit for, what supposedly would have been the toughest challenge of the year for him?
Well, if you remember back in '94, I had Emily Cassell, and we didn't have her staked to the Robert Stewart. So she went a good month or 5 weeks without a race. And with her, we had qualified her at Montreal in 2-1. And then I sent her up to my uncle in Barrie, Willis Jones, and he trucked her down to Mohawk and trained her a good mile in the mud before the Canadian Breeders, and it worked out for her. We set a track record at Mohawk and won the Canadian Breeders and got Horse of the Year with her. And we sort of did the same thing with Whelan. Sylvain schooled him twice at Mohawk behind the gate after the qualifiers, and then 3 days before his race on the Tuesday, I had a pacing mare that was ready to qualify, and Clay Mosier, my second trainer, he cut the mile with her. And we went 30 seconds a minute, 1:30, and went a mile in 58. And I trained Whelan. I kept him right in on his back the whole way down the stretch. And after the mile was done, I pulled him out when we headed down the back stretch. And he was strong right to the the other corner. And with him, I noticed was a lot of horses, when you ask them for speed, their legs go faster, but his just go longer.
A year ago at this time, we were getting ready for the super final. And you were quite frustrated with Prestidigitator because nothing seemed to be quite going right for him. And then he won the super final, and you said it was his time. I mean, he was due, and people weren't giving him enough credit. And that took you into the winter with a lot of optimism about this season. Now you've got Whelan and Dealan, where everything seems to have gone right for him, and you must have a lot of optimism thinking about next year. And I guess how do you really feel about going into another year? I mean, it's not really fair to ask you. You've just hardly completed this one, and I'm asking you about next year. But it's on the cards.
Well, the thing is with him, he finished out the year really good, and sound-wise, and did it easy. And in fact, on the 5 weeks that he had off, he gained quite a bit of weight. And he also got a little taller. So I'm optimistic that with 2 months off, 60 days without a harness on, turned out, I think he's going to come in and be quite a nice looking horse.
Right. Prestidigitator is a picture. Anybody sees him, they're impressed. Whelan and Dealan is a different make altogether. How do you compare them in physique?
Well, I told you once, Harold, was that Prestidigitator was a bit like Eric Lindros, and Whelan was like Wayne Gretzky, and that's about the good comparison, because Whelan is like a tall, long-legged horse, and Presti's more of like a bull. And Whelan is like more athletic looking, and like a longer-legged horse, and more athletic than Presti. And I think that's why he's like more agile to like leaving the gate and stuff like that than Presti is.
In a few days' time, you're headed to Harrisburg shopping again. You picked up a few in Lexington. I assume you don't hate anybody yet. So how do you think you're going to be set up winter-wise?
Well, I'm hoping to buy at least 8 more at Harrisburg.
There'll be some consigners happy to hear that.
Yeah, but it's to find them. Like I was trying to get a trotting colt, and Myron Bell outbid me on the trotting colt that I really wanted in Harrisburg, or Lexington, sorry. And geez, I've been having a hard time to find a real good trotting colt that sticks out like Whelan did or Presti did. And there's a lot of nice pacing colts out there, so I've got to buy a couple pacing colts, a couple trotting colts, and a trotting filly, and I also still want to buy an Ontario bred for each class. So we got some shopping to do.
Okay, well, congratulations on great season at this point. It's not quite done yet, and we'll see you in Harrisburg.
Yeah, sure, Harold.
Okay. Harold Howe with Dustin Jones, giving you the Harness Racing Edge.